Hope everybody's doing well. It is Thursday in St. Joseph. It's sunny out. I think we're looking at like 50, 52 today. I want to talk a little bit about buying an older RV and some things that you need to consider. You know, if you buy an RV that's in the, let's say late 80s, early 90s, Montee's a 93. If you find one with low miles, it's got low miles because it's set. And I mean, it's set for a long time. Setting, everything kind of rots away. All your seals on your engine, transmission, all that, brake lines, everything, when it doesn't get used, it gets brittle and old, and then it's got to be replaced. But I checked out Montee pretty good, took him for a really good drive, turned everything on, made sure everything worked, and everything worked. Every single thing on this worked when I bought it and left the RV shop. I was like 200 miles from where I bought it in Minnesota when I stopped to get gas, and it leaked gas when I pumped the gas in. It wasn't real bad, but it was leaking, and it was coming from right where it went into the tank, and you couldn't really see it because the filler tube went through the frame and then into the tank. So it ended up being just a dry line, and where it connected to the tank, where the hose slid over, it was just leaking from pretty much all the way around it. So I had to change the whole filler tube. That was very first thing. When I bought it, I knew it needed tires. And I mean, I was hearing anywhere from $1,600 to $2,500. Well, I ended up finding tires in Kansas City at they did like repairs on, big maintenance trucks, things like that. But I just happened to call them, and I got 6 tires there for $1,200. That was mounting, balancing, valve stem, everything, which it was a pretty good deal, I thought. I couldn't find any. The closest I found next to that was $1,600. And that's for the 19.5 RV tires. And the only other thing that I knew I was going to do, I knew it would need an oil change. Nobody really knew when the last one was, but the oil didn't look too bad. And I knew I was going to flush the transmission fluid and change the filter. You should always do that as soon as you buy any vehicle that's got, some miles on it, or it's set for a while. Because, that could save your transmission. Plus, when you pull the pan to change your transmission fluid, there is a magnet in your pan. You check the magnet and you see if there's any metal shavings on it. Something very, very, very small is not a problem, but if you see actual shavings of metal, that's a sign of a problem. So anyway, I also flushed the radiator and refilled it, and I pretty much knew I was going to do that. It didn't look, like rusted water, but it wasn't bright green the way I wanted it. And then I have a long list of things that Montee ended up needing. A couple things I just didn't notice when I looked at it, and some things just slowly started to go bad just from us driving it a little bit. And all the fluids going through again. But it ended up having a bad thermostat. It was going out. It wasn't opening all the way. I did plugs and plug wires. It needed a fan clutch, so while I had all of the front of the motor off, I went ahead and did a new water pump to make sure it was pumping the coolant right. I did a temperature sensor. It was bad. Once we got water going in here, we ended up having a leak behind the shower. I had to take my cushion off here, and I had to cut a hole in the wall behind here to get to the hookups for the shower, and all it needed was tightened, and the leak stopped. But that's what happens. Your seals and everything dry up from it sitting. And plumbing's the same way. It's everything in here is pretty much the same way, and it's going to also depend on where it's set. You know, the type of climate could be better or worse. But yeah, I got the leak fixed. And then I also did front wheel bearings. They were pretty bad. I did front sway bar bushings. They were rotted and completely fallen apart. And the front airbags, I did new Firestone ride rights because the airbags, neither airbag would hold air. They was completely flat. It needed back brakes. The air filter, I went ahead and did K&N. It runs a tiny bit better. I mean, you can feel a slight difference in K&N, and if you go with some good plugs, plug wires, new distributor cap. It also needed a fuel filter. The freshwater pump in here went out recently. I did a little video on that. We have 2 house batteries. One house battery was no good. And then just, you know, basic oil change. Anything I buy, I change the oil as soon as I get it. That way I can be on my own schedule. I just wanted to tell you guys, oh, last but not least, the generator. The generator worked perfect when we got it. Yeah, 7 months later and $1,600. It is pretty much a brand new generator on the generator side. I'm probably forgetting a few things too. I mean, I didn't really add anything I've done inside of here besides the leak, you know, things to actually live in here and have everything work. So, I mean, we're looking at a total of around $3,500 I've put into just the mechanicals. So Montee will roll down the road right and be, you know, reliable. And the only thing on this list that I did not do myself was the tires and the generator. So, I mean, you're looking at, if you could not do all this yourself, I don't know, you're probably looking at, with labor, if you had to pay for all these things, the airbags and the sway bar bushings, yeah, you could easily be looking at probably $6,000 to $8,000, guys. And I'm not trying to discourage anybody. I think everybody should do it, you know, if you can do it. But I just want you to know before you jump into it that you need to probably set aside a little extra money just for repairs and updates, just so you know that your motorhome, your house is going to be okay. You know, when you get, you know, 1,000 miles down the road, you're not going to break down somewhere. I mean, it could still happen. You want to have like extra things too, if you can, you know, extra belts. That's another thing I did. All of the belts are brand new on the motor. But, you know, extra coolant, some extra oil, maybe a couple extra spark plug wire or two in case one burns up. You know, just basic things, you know. I mean, even if you don't know how to do it, if you're in the middle of nowhere, you have no cell phone reception or anything, you know, and you look at your motor and a plug wire is burned out, most of us can figure it out, you know. So it's good to keep a spare just in case, things like that. But I'm not an expert by any means on RVs, you know, but I know quite a bit about cars and engines and things like that. I've worked on them my whole life. But if anybody, you know, has a question, I'll try to answer it if I can. If not, maybe I can send you to somewhere or someone who can. Yeah, especially Mick. Mick's been looking at RVs, and you get one and you need some help with something, I'm here for you, buddy. We will talk to you guys soon. Everybody have a good day. We'll see you on the road.